Welcome back, everybody. Today we have Ricky with us. Ricky, tell me where you're calling from.
I'm calling from my shop in Clovis, New Mexico.
Okay. Um, are you married?
Yes,
Do you have kids?
6.
6 kids.
Yes.
Oh my God. Power to you. Y- I couldn't do it. I have two, and that is, oh my God. Uh, all right. So, how many boys, how many girls?
3 boys, 3 girls.
Oh, so you got an even split.
Hmm.
Damn.
Yes, sir. I am a very blessed woman.
Yeah, that's 6 kids, 3 boys, 3 girls. That's awesome that it's a even split, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I
That
got I got lucky with it. I mean, it was like girl, boy, girl, boy, boy, girl. So my youngest is a hellion, but they're really good kids. So even her, she's got a heart of gold. She just can't stay out of mischief.
So, Ricky, how old are you?
I am 41.
Okay. And what do you do for work?
I am a conductor for BNSF.
All right, tell me about that.
Uh, it's a good career. Definitely a roughneck environment. But I was raised a roughneck, so it wasn't that much of a change for me. Us as the conductors, we do the grunt work. We make sure the train's in compliance. If anything breaks, we fix it. Got to tie the trains down. We got to do set outs, pickups, build them in the yard. So we direct the engineer on how to drive them, speed limitations, speed restrictions, Form Bs, talk to dispatch.
So it's a
So
lot. It's a lot to
yes,
do.
yeah, there's a lot involved in it, a lot more than people think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we should. What's you got to tell me some more about that because I know nothing about the railroad side of any of it. It's very interesting to me. I didn't,
So we
conductor. I didn't even know. Yeah, what you do, and you just explained like 15 different job titles on that one. That's a lot.
Yeah, if you're working the yard and you're building what we call a manifest train, that has different it has different products in it. We carry a lot of hazmat, a lot of hazardous chemicals. There's times we'll be going down the rail, you don't realize that we're a rolling bomb. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? We'll be carrying nitrous oxide, we'll be carrying diesel fuel, we'll be carrying ammonium monoxide. I mean, things that can cause the communities a great deal of harm if it's not transported properly.
yeah.
We carry things with grain, cotton, a lot of food products, a lot of heck. I've even had tank cars full of hot sauce. I mean, it's kind of a
Really?
funny. Yes, it's a
That's
funny deal.
hilarious.
Hmm. So
That's
we're
hilarious.
responsible for making sure that everything is built in accordance to safety regulations, FRA regulations, and make sure that we can transport it as safely as possible. So when we're in the yard, we get different trains that take out cuts of cars. And what I say by cuts of cars is like say you have 15 cars on the rear and you have to set those out. Well, we'll put them in the yard. And then if you're working the yard, you separate them out into different trains into different directions. Cause like I can go to either Carlsbad, New Mexico, Belen, New Mexico. I can work out of Amarillo. These cars can go to Slayton, Texas. They can go in many different directions for different parts of the country.
That's what I was just
So,
gonna ask you is how far do those trains that you deal with travel?
well, currently I'm working the boards that have worked either Amarillo to Belen, New Mexico, or Clovis to Belen, New Mexico. Occasionally, I'll work the board that sends me down to Carlsbad, New Mexico. I have worked Denver, I've worked Cheyenne, I've worked Alliance, Nebraska, I've worked La Junta, Colorado, I've worked Trinidad, Colorado, I've worked uh let's see, Phoenix, Arizona. I've worked at a bunch of different terminals for my work.
That's crazy. So you physically have traveled to all those places.
Yes. Yeah, and then I've worked trains from one location to the other, like Denver's what you call super pull, so they go in 3 different directions. So I've worked Denver to Cheyenne, Denver to Sterling, Denver to La Junta, so you can go all those different directions, or you can have a traditional pool, which just goes one direction off the board, and you work from there. You stay in a dorm, as they call it, or a hotel for 12 hours, 12 to 18 hours, and then they usually send you back on a train going back home.
That was my next question was, do you ride the trains to these places? Are you on the train or are you on
Yeah.
a truck on the tracks?
No, 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 I am on the train. I'm on the locomotive with the engineer.
That's awesome. Super cool. So I did see that in one of your videos because everybody that is watching, Ricky is a race car driver also. She's a true badass. And I did see that you did put a video up saying about, speaking of horsepower, and you turned around and you had like a bunch of the locomotives locked up to pull. How many do you usually use to pull? It
It
depends
depends
on.
on the weight and the length of the train. Our trains can go up to 16,000 feet, which we're carrying hundreds of thousands of tons. Like on a unit that long, we can have up to 10 units.
Oh my god.
We can have 10, yeah. So on the smaller manifest trains that we usually have, we'll have 4 to 5 units on that. The engineer's responsible for the care of those locomotives. I'm responsible for the freight. So I'm responsible for all the cars behind the locomotives. So if anything happens to the engines, it's the engineer's responsibility to make sure that that's taken care of. In my case, like say we get a knuckle, which is the metal couplers that couple together between the cars. That's what we call a knuckle. We've had those break before. It's my responsibility to make sure that gets fixed. Carrying 80-pound piece of lead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, those knuckles, I've seen them, they ain't small.
No, no, not at all. We've air hoses. I've personally even had a derailment. We had an issue with some thin flanges on some wheels, and we were dragging out, and it caused the car to bounce off the rail. So we have issues like that sometimes. I mean, it's just freak accidents, things like that. Going through switches, it's our responsibility for that.
Um, so I do have a question. The main Alright, so your locomotive that's pulling in the front, say you had multiples attached. Does each one have a driver, or is it just one driver and it's all linked together somehow?
It's all linked together.
Okay.
So it's all linked together. We have one engineer and one conductor per train. So occasionally, if we have a lot of pickups and set outs en route, or we have a lot of work to do, like in our location, it would be Vaughn, New Mexico. We usually have to set out our train, sometimes set out our vehicle trains there, and then they have to rebuild them. They'll give us a brakeman, which is a third person to help line switches, watch the points when we're shoving back, because we have to ride those rail cars. We have to either ride them to watch the point when we're shoving back the engineer, and we're responsible for doing the countdowns with the cars. You have to tell them within the half a range of vision. So if you do 20, then you do 12, then you do 7, and then you do 5, 3, 2, 1. To count them down so he knows when to stop. It's
Okay.
definitely it can be scary sometimes messing with that kind of level of equipment.
Yeah, I bet. What kind of, horsepower does one of those push out?
Between 4,400 to 5,100, for the road motors. Now, the switch motors are a little bit different. They're usually about 3,500, right in there.
Wild. Wild.
Yeah, it's a little different.
We actually had a guest on here who is a towboat operator. Well, he works on towboat. I don't believe he was the captain, but they use locomotive engines for their towboats, and he was showing me that. He had 2 of them on it.
Wow.
It
That's
was pretty
impressive.
insane. Yeah. It was really cool because, on the outside, you didn't realize how big the boat was until he went in the inside and showed you the motors, and you have these
Mhm.
massive 2 motors side by side. So it was definitely cool, but that's why I was asking
Yeah,
what
when
kind
we
of
have
power it
issues
takes
with
out.
the motors, it's a big deal because When they go down in flames. I'm not even
Oh,
gonna kid you. Like, we've had traction motors blow up and, sometimes something will happen and it'll cause the motor to seize, things like that. Just off the wall stuff. That's why we have maintenance at every terminal to help take care of those motors. But, with some of them being out there 30 plus years and then they've got
yeah.
millions upon millions of miles on them, you're like, sometimes things happen.
How fast is your speeds on those? What do you usually run?
On our intermodals, we which is a lot of our freight like FedEx, UPS, we can go up to 70.
Oh, wow.
Unless the rail has speed restrictions or we have Form Bs, things like that. We can go up to 70 mile an hour. Passenger trains like Amtrak, things like that, they can go up to 90. When it comes to manifest, we can go 55 usually, unless you have a speed restricted car, which is something that like hangs over the side of the rails, things like that, that can lower you down to 45. 50 a lot of times for key trains, and those are trains that have a lot of hazmat on them. Key
Okay.
trains is what we call the ones that have the most dangerous materials on them.
Good to know. Yeah, we have, here in Florida, we have what's it, Brightline? It's one of the passenger trains, and it's extremely fast,
Right.
and I've seen it go through where my buddy has a shop. He's right against the railroad. He's right against the tracks, and it'll come through the crossing so fast that the sensor doesn't kick down the crossing before it goes through. It's already halfway through before it starts going down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's killed a
I know
bunch of
Las
people.
Vegas right now is currently working on something called Speed Rail, and I think they're talking about going up to 200 mile an hour on it.
That's insane.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna pull it off, but I mean, I guess they're mimicking the rails and everything in Japan and that, and they go that
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, they're bullet
So
trains over there.
that's basically what they're making over here, down in Vegas anyway. So the big
That's
old talk
crazy.
with some of the guys about, going down there and stuff. I was like, I'll stick with my freight. I'm good. I don't
Yeah,
want to go 200 mile an hour on
yeah,
that.
in a train, I'm okay. I'm alright.
Mhm.
I mean, it'd be cool for a minute, and then I'd be like, "Alright, let's slow it down." It's too
Exactly.
big to be going that fast.
Mhm.
So, alright, so we got you work with trains and you do all that.
Yes, sir.
So your hobby, what is your hobby?
Well, my hobby is building and racing my race car. So I have a 90 Fox body that I named Stitch. So I'm part Hawaiian, so Lilo and Stitch kind of was one of those movies growing up with. So he cute, blue, but meaner than a son of a gun when you want him to be. So
I love it.
yeah, so I have him. He currently has a 357 V3 supercharger. Took the 357 out right now to get some work done to him and get it ready for next season. So we got that going on, and I'm actually tearing apart the entire front end right now to put in a tubular front end. So I've rebuilt everything on him. I've welded the cage in him, redid the rear end, rebuilt the transmission, rebuilt the motor, built the motor, even redid the interior myself.
That's awesome. Is this your first race car, or have you had many?
I've had a few, but he's been my primary one. This
Yeah.
car, believe it or not, actually saved my life. I had some
Really?
issues some years ago, and something happened when I was up in Denver. I was in the middle of a divorce and a bunch of nonsense and going through that. And uh, someone pulled out in my lane, a drunk driver, and damn near hit me. And I'm not the one who moved the wheel. I mean, it's really hard to explain that, but the car saved me. So the car ain't going anywhere ever.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
That's awesome. So, what year you say? 90?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a 90 Fox body.
So there's a guy in our neighborhood, which I would say last week I pulled into the neighborhood and I'm big gearhead. I love cars, love hot rods, all that. And he had a '92 Fox body in his driveway, and I stopped immediately because it had a huge blower sitting out of the hood, and, I mean, I was like, "I gotta check it out." So I did. I stopped, and I was like, "Hey, you mind if I look at your car?" He was sitting outside, and he's like, "Yeah." Went over. I mean, it was awesome, and he said that he's pushing close to 900 horse right now, and he told me the story behind his car, and the car, he bought it brand new from the dealer with his wife, and made it their family car. He would bring him, his wife, and the kids with the car seats in the car to the track. He would run it once down the track, then his wife would run it once down the track, and then they would, watch the rest of the races and then go home. And he said, after we just kind of stored it away, and now he's taken that as family car and made it into, it's a complete hot rod now. And I thought it was really cool that you took a car that you bought from the dealer back in the '90s and have family car, and now it's yours for a race car. I thought it was pretty
Oh,
cool.
yeah, and Stitch was, he was actually bone stock when I got him. He had the original motor, when I first started racing him, he had the 302 in it. I just souped it up, different cam, different heads,
Yeah.
things like that. Now he's progressed up to the 357. Eventually, I'd like to put a 427 in him, but I'll see how that goes, on a later date.
That's awesome. So for your job, this is your career that you're gonna stick with for the rest of your life, right?
Yes, sir.
How
Yeah,
long
I've
have you
had
been Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I've had several blue collar jobs, and this is the one that I think I'm gonna end up sticking with.
That's what I was just gonna get into is, so how long have you been with the railroad?
6 years, going on 7.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so I'm
before
still
that,
I'm still a new hire.
no, 6, 7 years, that put some
Oh,
time in.
that's new hire status. You gotta remember, guys who get hired out on these jobs, like, they're lifers.
Oh, really?
Majority of them end up staying for life. Majority of these guys are 30, 40 years in. We had this one cat, he not graduated, he retired this last year, and he hired out in 1959.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Daryl LaRue. That man he was something else. I loved working with him.
That's awesome. You
Mhm.
don't you don't hear about that nowadays.
No, you don't. No,
No.
not really. So
That's dedicated.
I'm still new hire status, but I mean, like I said, it's a good career, and it'll definitely keep you on your toes, that's for sure.
So before this, before the railroad, what did you do?
Well, I kinda grew up on a cattle ranch, so I did that for quite a few years. I've worked off and on restaurants, just make extra money, ends meet. Mechanic, welder, correctional officer for 6 years. That was interesting. That's probably why working with primarily men, it just doesn't phase me. You gotta have that mindset in order
I was
to
gonna
do
say,
that.
you're the chick that, you don't wanna mess with.
I don't know
Nope.
about all that, but
I'm gonna say all that. If you
Mhm.
went from mechanic, welder, correction officer, now you're in the railroad, I'd say you're on that badass level. I
So, it's just how I grew up. I got picked on, even by my grandmother. She used to give me a lot of flack. She'd be like, "I love you, but I don't understand you," because my sister and my cousin, they were all about the barrel racing and the beauty queen. I wanted no part of it. I was like, "Let me go turn wrenches with grandpa, please." Like, I don't wanna do this. So we'd be out, tending to the cattle and fixing fence and windmills and that, and he's the one who got me started on a lot of it, and I just it was just my thing. I'm not one of those gender neutral whatever, I don't get into all that stuff. I just a tomboy through and through.
Yeah.
It's the way I've always been. So it doesn't bother me. I love it. I love my career. I love that I get to work with my hands. I cannot imagine myself being stuck in an office all day long staring out a window or a computer screen. I can't see it.
That right there is probably one of One of the top comments I get on the podcast is somebody will bring that up at least once a week that I can't imagine being in a cubicle. And yeah, that's why we do blue collar because we're not cut out for that office.
Mm-mm.
That's not us. Mm-mm.
No, sir. No, and like I said, just the upbringing, the tractors and the cattle and riding the horses and so I already knew I would scout with my grandfather, for hunting. We would do stuff like that, for other people, for guides, and I mean, that was just my life. I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was any different anywhere else. Not until I got older, and then I was like, "Okay."
Do you work with any other women? Is there any
Yes,
women?
yes, there are
There is?
several women that I work with. I have one gal, she's a really good friend of mine. Her name's Kelly Baldwin. She's an engineer. She actually drives the trains.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, she's an engineer. She's a tough cookie too. So she's an old soul. I like her.
That's awesome.
Um, we've got I'd say there's probably a woman working out there for every 100 men.
Okay.
So we're far and few between, but we are out there and we're growing in numbers. There's more women out there who are getting involved in the blue collar, field, the
There
roughneck
is.
field. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I've had multiple women on the podcast and I love seeing the women get into the trades. It's incredible. It's an awesome thing to see. That I have had women that are welders, iron workers. I've had one tugboat, scrapyard, railroad.
Yeah,
I mean, it's awesome to see the women joining into the trades because I think we need more and more people in the trades, and it's getting to one of those things that the new generation, they don't wanna work, so to see the
yeah, I
women starting to
explained
come
to my
into it,
kids.
great.
Yeah, I had to explain to my kids, like, blue collar is the way to go because nobody wants to do it no more.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get dirty.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
which
just
is
make sure you tell them, "Don't chase the money.
ugh, the
Don't
money'll
chase
chase
the money."
you.
That's right. Chase your passion. Find one that you find you get passion in, you take pride in doing, and do that. Don't just chase the money.
Yeah, that's the worst part. They get into I said, "There's so many people in fields that you wanna do, like, you're gonna be in trouble if you don't find a opening." A lot of people
Yeah.
can't find jobs. That's the worst part.
Yep.
Let's see here. My apologies.
You're right. So what does your husband do for work?
He's a mechanic.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah. We matter of fact, here I'll show you. Like this is his baby. He's got a
oh, damn.
yeah, he's got a dragster.
Oh, boy. God. What kind of power is that pushing out?
I'd say about 600, but right now because it doesn't have any power adders. It's naturally aspirated, but
Okay.
the car's only 1,200 pounds.
Yeah, it weighs nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a
So
yeah, just a frame.
yeah, pretty much. So he's super excited about that. He's getting started on that this next season. His brother, his brother's a racer too. He does dragsters, and his brother I've actually worked with. He's an engineer out in here on BNSF as well.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
you guys are all mechanics and train people. It's
Yes, pretty
dope.
much. Yeah, it keeps us busy. That's for sure.
I bet. Do your kids like the racing? Are
I've
they
got a
getting into
couple of
that?
them that are into it. My youngest, she loves motorcycles, so she's really into that. My fourth child, my second son, he's really into the race, and we're starting him on a SN95 that with a souped up 302 in that. So get him acclimated to the track and things like that. Let him respect the sport, and then we'll start building him up. Eventually, I'll throw him in Stitch. So see how well he does with that.
How awesome. That's incredible. So, I mean, you
So,
have a lot going on.
mhm.
Do you have any free time for yourself?
Some. I mean, I go to the gym. We go out and we shoot. We have a lot of guns.
Okay.
We teach the kids. safety, and we take them out and they go shooting. Like my son has my grandfather's AK-47. He got that for his 18th birthday. That's all he wanted. He
Really?
got the yeah AR-15s. We got the 9 millimeters. We teach them all that too. It's their right.
The
They need to know.
the AKs, those are fun. I had one.
They're
Definitely fun.
interesting.
Can't really I wouldn't say they're very accurate, but, they are fun. I'd rather shoot my AR, it's a little more accurate than my AK was.
Yeah, my oldest boy, he kind of freaks me out. He's like John Wick, like skinny high school version, the way he can shoot and stuff. He freaks me out sometimes, but he's really good. He's talented.
You get them into competitions.
Yeah, yeah, I've been meaning to do that. It's just the worst part with this job is I'm on call 24/7.
Oh,
So, yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's
the
me.
one thing about this career is you have to learn that you don't get quantity time, but you have to make sure it's quality time when you do have it
Yeah.
with the family. So that's been one of the biggest adjustments to working out there is and they've done a lot of things to improve that for us. They really have. They've done the FRA did RISA, which is you have 6 starts and you can get 48 hours off to be at home with your family, or you can vote in your union um, to turn it into a 6 and 3 board where you're on the board 6 days straight and you can work every 12 hours. They can boom boom boom, and then you can choose to take 3 days off, or you can put a code in and just choose to keep working. I mean, so if you got bills to pay, you're behind on something or something like that, you can stay working. But we're only allowed to work up to 272 hours a month. And they don't count the time that we're in the hotel in Berlin, that we're away from home terminal as time that we're working. They don't count that. So it's only the amount of time that we're on the train.
Oh,
So we can be away from our family a lot. We can
yeah.
be home 10 days out of the month if we're lucky.
So what are your normal hours? Like,
Uh,
I mean, rough because I didn't know you did say you're on call, so you can't be like, "Oh, my no," you don't have a set schedule, right?
well, like I'm on vacation right now. That's a way I could do
Okay.
this call with you.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, you check the board. Like when you come in off a train, you'll go to the bottom of the board and you'll have 50 guys ahead of you. And you can keep an eye out, and I can go to work at 2:47 in the morning, or I can go at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or and it can pick up. So you could stand to go to work at midnight. You're like, okay, I can get some stuff done and get a nap in, and then 5 o'clock in the afternoon, this is BNSF attempting to contact. You're like, so it'll catch you off guard a lot. So you have to learn to prioritize your time. You have to learn to prioritize your family and prioritize your sleep. Because if
Yeah.
you don't do that, if you're sleepy out there, one of my best friends was, and it wasn't his fault. It was an RCO accident, but I mean, he passed away. He got cut in half by a rail car. We had another guy who fell off a locomotive. He passed away from that. We've had a lot of tragedy when it comes to that career. So you need to prioritize so you can focus, and not just for yourself. I mean, you've got a lot of people, that don't pay attention that are around you. A lot of
Yep.
people who don't realize, like, hey, we can't stop on a dime. I've already had a death from us hitting somebody. And that was a little tough because that's another thing that I've done is I'm a first responder. I was an EMT for a while. And, so you get off the train and you take care of him until the paramedics get there, but unfortunately, he didn't make it,
Yeah.
and we gotta live with that.
Yeah.
So, but if we're not on point, focused, ready to go, it'll bite you in the butt quick.
Yep. That's I've had multiple discussions with, other guests, about the amount of hours we put in, the amount of stress we go through, the mental side of blue collar that's not really talked about as much.
Mm,
A lot of guys try to cope, men and women with alcohol, drugs, and then you go out drinking, well, then you have to go to work, and especially If you were out drinking and you got a call to go to work, well, now you're really screwed. You're gonna either go to work or you're not gonna go to work. You're gonna get in trouble either way. But I try to don't go try to find something to cope with like alcohol or drugs because the next day you could end up either hurting somebody or yourself.
Yeah,
Whatever the going goes.
that's why with me personally and a lot of people that I've worked with, we focus on the gym.
Yep.
I'm an adrenaline junkie, so amusement parks, race cars, four-wheelers, that kind of stuff. So something like that to get your stress out. 'Cause
That's right.
it
Yeah.
will, the stress will eat you alive. You don't A lot of people don't realize what it does to you.
Yeah.
That 9 to 5, I'm sure up here, like, at that 9 to 5 in an office, they're, like, screaming. I get that. We get the physical part out with ours, but we're still like, what about our family? Like, we're
That's
gone 36 hours or plus at a time, months at a time, weeks at
exactly.
a time for some people. I can't even imagine, I when I first hired out, I had to go take work up in Denver, and I didn't see my kids for 4 months. That was rough.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
can
as a
imagine.
Yeah, as a mother, like, you're like, "Am I doing the right thing here?"
Yeah, and
Am
FaceTime, yeah, you can see your kids, but it's not the same. You can't hold your kids, you can't kiss them goodnight.
mm-mm.
It's hard, and, that's I think that, it's not talked about the mental side as much on blue collar, and that's what it does. We have to go out long hours, and then you come home, and maybe, like, when I was doing it, I would go into work at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't get out until 3 o'clock the next day.
Mhm.
By the time I got home, it was eat dinner, take a shower, say hi to the kids, and then get in bed.
Yep,
I
I've
never
done
had
that.
time to hang out with my kids. I didn't Before this happened to me, I never got any time to go see, my daughter's dance at her school or any sort of activities, and it was rough because, you don't get to experience all that, and you watching them grow, and you're missing it all.
It's tough.
Hard.
That's why I said you have to when you are there, you have to try to make it quality time, and a lot of
Yeah.
people forget that. They get so caught up in the cycle or they go on autopilot, and they forget, they're like, "Where did the month go?" "Where did the last 3 months go?" Then it took me a while to adjust to that, and I still struggle with it. I make the time to make sure that I'm there for what's important, graduations, birthdays, I
Yeah.
sometimes I miss a birthday here and there, but we will celebrate it when I get home. I
Yeah.
promise you that. Um, but things like Christmas, things like Thanksgiving, to us, it's like it's a day to celebrate as family. If we don't get it done on that day, like, we're gonna do it. We've learned to acclimate to that. So Thanksgiving may be on the following Saturday or Christmas maybe 2 days before,
Yeah.
we'll celebrate the solstice or something, but, that's the biggest thing that we've had to learn because transportation never stops. So
That's right. Yeah.
it's 24/7. We have to provide the goods and services for the entire country, so we need to be on call 24/7, and that's our responsibility, that's what we signed up for.
That's right. Blue collar makes the world go round.
Yes, sir.
You're right on the front row I mean, you're on the front lines of that. I mean, if people it's true. I mean, just like you said it. If the people in the railroad didn't work, well, America doesn't get anything they need. Like
Mm-mm.
you said, you guys are hauling hot sauce. I mean,
Everything.
everything, you know, eh, the trains stop, the world stops.
Yeah, we get those trains stopped.
Unexpected.
I mean, you'd be surprised what we transport. We've had quite a bit of theft. Like we get a lot of people who break into the containers and stuff, especially the intermodal, and you'd be surprised what falls out of there. Barbie dolls, like aluminum pans, mattresses. I had a tire
Never
fall out
mind.
on me one time. I was like, you don't
Oh
expect that.
god.
You're walking the train, going to close a container, and then all of a sudden a tire falls out on you. You're like, well, okay. There's another checklist off my life right there.
Oh man. Ricky, it was awesome talking to you today. And do you have any words of advice for any other women that want to get in the railroad or just into blue collar general?
Don't be scared. You'd be surprised what you can do if you just finally get the mindset that you can do it. A lot of women think they're limited because they're women. Nah.
That's
No,
right.
it
That's so
just
true. Exactly.
I've had a lot of guys tell me when I'm working out there, "Oh, well, women don't belong out there." My response to that is, "Yeah, there are some women who don't belong out here, but there's some men who don't belong out here either." It's a mindset, it's a character preference, it's not for all men, it's not for all women, but you'd be surprised what you can accomplish once you just set your mind to it. It took me 4 years and 28 tries to get out there, and I don't regret a second of it.
It's incredible.
So,
That's good advice. Very good advice. I appreciate you coming on the podcast and being our guest. It was lovely talking to you. Had a great time. And yeah, we're definitely gonna keep in touch.
absolutely, I'd love to keep in touch, so let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Sounds good. Thank you for coming on.
Alright, I appreciate it. You have a good day.
You too.